A region of the minority steeped in national history, where the lifeblood of the national economy attracts diverse peoples and interests from across the country and around the globe. It is here in Nigeria's bustling Niger Delta region that we observe and incisively diarize life and activity in this fast-expanding region facing peculiar human and socio-economic challenges. We assess local industry. We hear directly from the people affected by decisions, and we question the decision makers empowered to serve and protect them. I am Ajuri Ngelale, and it is my honor to present to you a diary from the Delta. Exclusively on AIT. Central to any effort aimed at developing Nigeria's bustling Niger Delta region is the effectiveness and efficiency of bureaucracy, both at the local level and at the federal level. On this edition of the program, we assess all factors militating against effective public service delivery in the region. I am Ajuri Ngelale, and I welcome you to this entry from my diary from the Delta. It is well known around the world that while profit margins are at stake in the management of private sector organizations, the growth, security, and stability of nations are determined by the effectiveness of public service institutions. Therefore, the need for effectiveness, efficiency, and productivity in Nigeria's public sector cannot be overstated. Across the Niger Delta region, bureaucracy at the state level has been and is presently undermined by factors impeding developmental progress in the federal civil service.
What happens in Nigeria is that the center is seen as a place to go and share the cake, not as a place where to bake the cake. So there is transactional mentality of the civil servant, going there just to get a portion of the cake, not to add to baking of the cake. So recruitment process is opaque. Recruitment process is not professional. Imagine an MA sending a note and say, please recruit. Imagine a chief sending a note, say, please recruit. Imagine an Oba sending a note, say, please recruit. Imagine a senator sending a list. So it goes. And that's how some of these people got recruited. Now, when you recruit people that don't have highly technical and educational background, what do you get? The input must always be equal to the output. So that is what happens to Nigerian case. And there's an ethnic rivalry. People go in there to look after their own ethnic group. Now, if you are a permanent secretary, you will be seen to always be surrounded by people from the ethnic group. And that makes professionalism difficult. And people are not promoted based on their contributions, on their output, but they are promoted based on peer review mechanism. And who are the peers? People write notes, this person is the best, or this person needs to be promoted, or there is a graduality of promotion. If you do 4 years, you promote. If you do 3 years. But in other cases, you cannot be promoted without an examination to know even if you are equal to the tasks of the next level of job you're going to do. So I think Nigerian case is we need to reform the system. We have to bring in the best and the brightest. The first 11 of Nigerians must be heading the civil service. Nigerian government cannot afford to have the worst Nigerians running Nigerian government. If Nigerian government is a corporation, can't you have the best to run your corporation? Because it's the civil service, the civil servants that run the corporation. They are the people that execute.
Even as traditional rulers and political elites in the Niger Delta place pressure on public officials from the region to create employment opportunities for people they know from various ethnic nationalities within the states, the challenges confronting effective civil service administration are not unknown in the country. Previous efforts have been made to reform Nigerian bureaucracy. The Udoji Commission of 1972, the 1988 Civil Service Reforms, and the 1994 Review Panel on Civil Service Reforms all attempted to fundamentally restructure the service, though failing in implementation. However, given the unprecedented war on corruption presently ongoing in the country, experts assert that the time for true reform in the service is now.
Unless we professionalize civil service in a way that is going to be publicly, the selection process is going to be open and it's going to be examination based. And the first examination might be up to test. People go online and do the exam. The shortlisted must be publicly interviewed and made public for Nigerians to see so that you know whether this person is competent. When we do that, we get the best. Yes, that's the issue of federal character. I'm assuring you that in this country, every state has the best and the brightest. So what we say is that the states must hand Nigerian federal government the best of its people, and then when they come, eventually we test them. In fact, why can't we every year look for the best and will be presidential award for the best civil servant of the year? This is how we have to do it. We have to give them the incentives, but also we have to give them that ability to make mistakes and learn. Let them be creative and innovative. Let them not be pigeonholed into a system of just go there and fill forms. So one of the things I'm suggesting in Nigeria to start with is that we're going to do forensic personnel auditing, recruitment. We're going to re-employ all the civil servants so that we carefully look at their qualifications, the experience, and if they are capable of doing the job. We must downsize. You need efficiency. If you need efficiency and productivity, you must bring people you can pay well. You don't need to have a trillion or 1 million army that is inequipped.
A doctor of public administration, Otive Igbuzo, says that the problem of failing bureaucratic structures comes not as a result of any lack of reform mechanisms, but rather as a result of insufficient political will and development planning.
In 2014, the last administration, launched an employee mobility policy, which is to ensure that a correct recruitment process is done, that a correct deployment is done, that there are systems and mechanisms for deployment, and ensure that the required people, the right skills are, put in the right places. The challenge has been the implementation. A federal government committee actually argued that there is no public service, that what you have is a system of patronage that is there. There is no alignment between policy and budget, and there is no even focus on policy. The last policy that is governing the environment was formulated in 1998-99. The last policy that is governing education in this country today was formulated in 2006. And this is 2016, 10 years, when a policy should be reviewed after every five years. The policy that is governing the health sector today was last reviewed in 2006. The water policy today was last reviewed in 2004. The 2006 policy is actually a draft policy. So there is no focus of the public sector on policy architecture.
Aside from the inherent challenges presented in the current Nigerian situation, first world public institutions offer a clear illustration of how public service institutions are developed and sustained.
Singaporean civil servants are the best of the best you can think of in Singapore. They hire first-class students, graduates. They hire highly technical and the highly innovative and creative Singaporeans. And they go to the extent of giving them continuous training, incentivizing them by giving them good pay, giving them good place of living, and they guarantee them good pensions. You see, if you don't do this type of thing, there's no way you expect the best. Countries like Singapore and Japan, they do bonus every year. But bonus is linked to GDP growth. If the GDP grows by 1%, extra 1%, they get, all the civil servants get extra 1% bonus. You see, you have to make people take responsibility. If the GDP goes down by 1%, they lose 1% of the bonus they're supposed to get. Singapore gives their people the best education. And also make sure that when you get the best education, you also pay back to the state. Either you work in public service or you work in a public corporation that actually, look at Singaporean airline, is the best in the world, and things like that. Singapore urban development is the best in the world. Singapore is like an electronic city. So what they have done is to put in the mindset of their citizens from childhood growing up that this country loves you. You can die for Singapore because Singapore is ready to give you the best you can have. Nigeria has not given us that mentality. Die for Nigeria because Nigeria will stand there for you.
In the early 20th century, China experienced developmental retardation in large part due to an unprofessional, corrupt, and inefficient civil service. With an economy lagging and popular morale declining, President Deng Xiaoping emerged in 1978 with the goal of instituting market reforms and encouraging foreign direct investment. In what is potentially a guide to current reform efforts in Africa's most populous nation, Deng realized then that his efforts to revolutionize the Chinese economy would not be possible as long as his country's civil service remained corrupt and ineffective.
December 17, 1978, when they came on board, they wanted to reform the entire Chinese economy. But he knew that where to start would be the civil service. What he did was to downsize quickly, remove so many deadwoods, and send them to go, pay them little money to go and do retraining or become entrepreneurs or become business owners. And then brought in people who are capable. Xi, the president of China, actually started as a low-level civil servant. Because the fact that you are patriotic and you are consistent and you are determined and you are going training every year. China is one of the countries that you must do training every year. We're not training our civil servants. When they go there, look, if you don't train somebody over a period of time, even the knowledge the person acquired in the past is lost.
In public institutions across the region, ethical erosion and in some states, outright politicization has undermined the effective implementation of both state and federal government policy in the zone.
Government work is translated to mean white man's job. In Urhobo language, is Iruoro Yibo, white man's job. In Igbo language, is Orwo Yibo, white man's job. And most languages. So when you leave your community and you go to a white man's job, and you are able to steal from the white man, when you come back to the community, you are rewarded with chieftaincy title. They have turned the civil service to a place for the village idiot and the family imbecile. So it doesn't matter whether you know anything, you can write anything, but as far as you know somebody, then you can enter into the public service. In other countries, it's not like that. Competition into the public service is a nationwide and serious business.
When you bring people, when somebody gets recommended for a job he's not qualified for, and he knows that he's not answerable to the job, but is answerable to the godfather, the person that sent him there, because he knows he cannot be removed in the presence of that person. So what happens is that whether he comes to work or not, nobody, because he knows that if you look behind, you see the person who is standing for him. And as a result, whether he's efficient, whether he's productive, doesn't matter. So what I'm saying in essence is that sharing the cake mentality is because there is no process of assessment. You don't assess people to know whether they are productive.
Historically, at the state level, executive action and non-existent legislative oversight is predicated on the insatiable desire of political actors to sustain power by patronizing political interest groups such that political compensation determines the focus of public expenditure and the prioritization of government programs, projects, and actions. Whereas in developed societies, the prioritization of government programs and projects is determined by a strict adherence to overarching short, medium, and long-term development plans encompassing all sectors of the local economy. Here in the Niger Delta, the cultural absence of citizen activism and informed public scrutiny has meant that public officials are not made to concern themselves with value for money in project execution. Furthermore, intellectual laziness in a politicized public service environment gives rise to massive and arbitrary spending on a handful of visually appealing construction projects at the expense of other critical sectors and at the abandonment of long-term development savings, planning, and execution, as the appearance of productivity and its boosting effect on political acceptability has been valued above comprehensive administrative effectiveness.
One major challenge with leadership in the Niger Delta is that it's determined, and this started right from the military regime. It is determined from Abuja. So if Abuja says you are a leader, then automatically you become a leader for the Niger Delta people. Whereas there are authentic leaders, people who, whose values, ideas, and mobilization resonate with the Niger Delta people. But because there is no endorsement from Abuja, those people are not able to effect the kind of leadership they have. And so you have a situation. There was a research that was carried out sometime for people to determine what is the most important factor for success in life. And the predominant one from the Niger Delta was connection. When other regions were looking at things like hard work, intelligence, commitment, professionalism, the commonest reason given by the Niger Delta citizens is connection. So with that kind of mindset, you see that public service delivery is very poor across the Niger Delta states. If you go to the Niger Delta, you will find out that states such as Rivers, Bayelsa, and Delta have budget that is more than 4 to 5 states put together. Yet, if you look at the education sector, for instance, and look at how many students in these states have access to computer, it's appalling. Compared to other states, for instance, Ekiti State, under Kayode Fayemi, and Osun State, that have very few limited resources. Yet, their educational system, the access of students to modern equipment like laptop and so on is very high.
Since the inception of Nigeria's Fourth Republic in 1999, policy discontinuities and reversals have marked power transitions from one administration to another with adverse effect on public service delivery. In the context of the Niger Delta, public service institutions established to develop the region by both federal and state governments have failed to achieve their stated aims due to political interference, resource misappropriation, unprofessional labor, amongst other encumbrances. But of great concern to keen observers in the region is the erosion of ethics and values demonstrated before up-and-coming generations in the Niger Delta, a pathologically defeatist motivation to corruptly insulate oneself from the fear of tomorrow's lack or suffering at the expense of today and tomorrow's generation. A mindset which experts say can only be reformed with solution-oriented governance.
If you put people in a clean environment and ensure that the place continuously looks clean and it motivates you. When you enter a clean environment, the air conditioners are working, the lighting is good, and the flowers are there. I mean, it gives you that confidence. It builds confidence in you. It motivates you. It activates the best in you. Why is it that some of the best universities in the world, like MIT, Harvard, if you go there, you see greenery everywhere, and so that they bring out the best in you. And sometimes they put some monuments that will reflect. Imagine when you are moving as a civil servant, you see the picture, the monument of Nelson Mandela, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, our present president, that is Buhari, and you see them. And you see some of the quotes they have made. They have said, that can inspire you, that can motivate you to work for your nation.
What do you need to do? You need, first of all, a reorientation. That's why the change agenda has to be comprehensive. The change agenda has to be comprehensive, looking at political change, the way politics is organized, to remove violence, economic change, to diversify the economy, and ensure that people who get money are those who work. Not getting 600 and something million naira for organizing prayers. Diversify the economy and create incentives that those who produce goods and services get reward. Not people who engage in political entrepreneurship. And you do social change by doing social reorientation. By reorienting people so that in society, integrity, hard work is respected. Not the present situation where if you look at the national honors list, if you remove all of those that have visited EFCC and remove coup plotters, you will not have any list.
As the Niger Delta, and indeed the nation at large, aspires to be free of underdevelopment, liberated from lack, and unbound to actualize its limitless potential, the yearnings of the majority must now finally guide and inspire the closed-door deliberations of the powerful minority. Of every reform effort instituted to reform state bureaucracy, perhaps no remedy is more potent than the reform of the motivation and content of Nigeria's public administrators. I am Ajuri Ngelale, signing off.